Love this guy. So thrilled that he's going to be sitting next to me in the NFL Network scouting combine booth for an absurd amount of hours next weekend in the first ever primetime version of the NFL Scouting Combine on NFL Network. He is a longtime scout and individual and observer of this league. It has been dynamite for all of us at NFL Network for, the last 8 years. Daniel Jeremiah, good to see you, sir.
How you doing, bud?
How many people have you watched tape on?
I'm at 337. Some of those aren't combine guys. I've got about 10 to 12 safeties left to do, then I'm done with everybody in the combine.
Is that right?
Yeah. My forearm hurts, man. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what it was, and I was talking to one of my buddies in the league. He's an offensive line coach. He said, "Yeah, right. you got clicker forearm there. You know, that's what it is."
Oh gosh,
yeah. It's a thing apparently.
It's like an ergonomically incorrect situation for people who time too many individuals.
There's an invention out there. We can save forearms around the league. I just don't know.
Do I need to look for somebody to replace you for my 40?
Look, it's early in the week. We don't have to put out an injury report yet.
Okay,
but by Monday. So we'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah. So you're probable. You're probable.
Yeah, we'll let you know Monday.
Okay, very good. All right, let's get into this thing here. Because Thursday night, 1 week from tonight, is going to be quarterbacks in primetime. They've reconfigured everything around. Television is beginning to take over this event. You've got TV creep on this event.
No appetizers. We are jumping right into the main course.
I mean, Thursday night is the biggest night of watching television. We all know that. Mm-hmm. And so just jump right in right now with quarterbacks. What are you hearing about Joe Burrow? Is there any smoke to the story, the rumor that gets bigger that, to be very honest, a lot of his answers to questions fuels that he doesn't want to play for the Bengals, that he's going to pull an Eli Manning? What are you hearing, DJ?
Well, first of all, last week I went and spent time with him and watched him throw and then visited with him for about 20, 25 minutes.
Where was this?
He's with Jordan Palmer at J. Sarah High School. Sam Darnold's down there. Josh Allen's down there. Kyle Allen's down there. So he was down there working out with those guys. So
and Jordan being the one who is...
That's the connection a lot of people have made with Carson and his experience with the Bengals. You know who's working with the receivers? TJ Houshmandzadeh.
Right, and he has basically said something similar to what Carson Palmer has said. So that's why people have begun to read into
these
this.
Dots.
Correct.
And he hasn't gone out and eliminated it with what he said. So, you know, we didn't talk specifically about that, but I would just kind of reading between the lines say he's just kind of in a little bit of a fact-finding mission here to find out what this is going to be.
So, what facts?
Can I just solve it real quick?
Sure.
If I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, and whether or not you think this is real, this may happen, this may not happen, free agency starts March 18th. Go out and sign Joe Thuney, or go out and sign a free agent and say, we're committed, we want to win championships, we are going to spend the money to surround you with the support that you need. And that's it's like a good faith gesture there to say, this is, hey, we want to win a championship, and here's some examples of that.
So the Bengals need to make free agency maneuvers to make an overture to somebody that they could take anyway.
They could, but then he has, he mentioned the word leverage, which he does have, which sounds weird to people. The draft, you have no leverage. Well, no, you do. If you're willing to go to
to be a grad assistant for a year because he's out of eligibility.
That's what I'm saying. You'd sit for the year. So
and
I think it's a nuclear option. I don't think we're going to get there. I think he'll be the first pick. I think he'll be with the Bengals, and all this stuff will go away. I'm just saying, if you're the Bengals and you want to say we've got some pretty good pieces in place here offensively, in my opinion, it's the best offense a number one pick would jump into since Cam went to Carolina. That Carolina team
no kidding.
Because that Carolina team, when you look at who they had, was Jordan Gross, Ryan Khalil, obviously our Steve Smith. You had D'Angelo Williams. You had Jonathan Stewart. That was a really good group. But I would take the talent that Cincinnati has coming back, provided they're healthy, with Jonah Williams coming back, with A.J. Green coming back. I think there's more talent around him than all these recent number one picks that they've walked into.
So, and what about Zach Taylor? I mean, he's no slouch, right? I mean, we saw last year was troubling, obviously, once again, where the Bengals found a floor that we didn't think that they would hit. So Burrow should be a fit anywhere, but the question is how would that work? I mean, what could be possibly in Burrow's thinking outside of the fact the Bengals are the Bengals, and we've seen what the Bengals can be, and Carson's telling Jordan, and I'm sure Carson's had time with him, basically say, my experience with this guy and Mike Brown and whatever was this. What about the X's and O's and fit.
I think the fit can work. Now, one of the things that with Zach Taylor is they'll do a lot of under center stuff and boot and stretch the Kyle Shanahan offense that he's kind of come up in. With Joe Burrow, I'm parking him in the shotgun. I'm getting 4 and 5 guys out in the route, which is what he excelled at LSU. And Zach's smart enough.
Yeah.
You're gonna draft him. You know what he can do. You're gonna put him in that situation. So I don't have any reservations about that. I think when you look at maybe some of his concern, Joe Burrow's 23 years old, Rich. He's not old enough to have been alive when the Bengals won a playoff game. So while he's a hometown guy, 2 hours away, they haven't had that success. I think they've averaged like less than 7 wins a season since 1993 or whatever it is. They haven't gone out and spent money in free agency. So those are kind of the factors I think weigh into this. I don't think it has anything to do with the coach. I don't think it has anything to do with the players they have there, because I think there's a good nucleus to build around.
Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. But let's play this thing out just for what's and giggles. And by the way, this might be just instead of the conversation you and I are going to have at the pre-combine meeting on Wednesday, we'll just hash it out right here. Who would be the other team in and what other quarterback in if this is an Eli Manning thing? Who would be the Phillip Rivers in this? Who would be the team that would call up the Bengals and say, okay, which quarterback do you want? Let's make that trade. Who would be the Giants and the Phillip Rivers in this equation if this is, in fact, the Eli Manning and the Chargers between Burrow and the Bengals?
Well, if we're going to go with that, comparison, then I think you're talking about Tua. You would have to take Tua, redshirt Tua, and that would be, you're talking about the team with the ammunition to get up there is the Dolphins. That's the one that makes sense. But then you've got 7 with Joe Brady. With the Carolina Panthers, you would think would be more than willing to make a bold move to try and go all the way up there.
Well, they have to do a Ricky Williams type trade for that.
Way.
Right.
That's a long way for them to go. I almost feel like if I'm the Bengals and we're just really playing this thing out.
That's what we're doing.
But if I'm the Bengals and I get wind of it that he's not going to show up, then we decide organizationally we're going to try and get the most we can for this pick. I'm not going to get out of range of the next quarterback. So I would say, look, the Lions are picking at 3. So if you're 5, 6, and 7, which are the 3 quarterback teams, the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Panthers, before you get to me, you got to go through Detroit, because you're going to have to get to the 3rd pick, because we're not going to go further than the 3rd pick. That's where we stop. So you're going to have to do a trade to get to 3 before you can even get to me. And that's going to be incredibly expensive.
So do you think the Dolphins have already reached out to the Lions? Have you heard that they've already reached out?
I haven't heard that. I have not heard that yet. It's early. It's so early in the process. Well, Indianapolis, I think, is when you'll start hearing some of those.
Well, that's the reason why I'm asking this, because if I'm the Dolphins, and I do love Tua as much as we all assume that they do, once Tua hits Indy and everybody gets to actually see him, talk to him, take him in, see his medical, perhaps be as positive as it is, don't you think there's going to be others that'll be knocking on the Lions' door at 3 saying, I want him? I mean, don't you think it'll be more, so you might as well go and try and get him now, in the same way that Washington knocked on Les Snead's door for RG3 way, way in advance?
Yeah, but I think the injury changes all that. I mean, there's no way in your right mind that you can make that trade without your doctors getting their hands on him and seeing firsthand what this looks like. This is not a standard ACL. This is not somebody who broke his leg.
Right.
It's a hip, and that's scary. It's a really scary injury. So, and it's all different. I mean, there's a documentary. I've talked to some teams about this. There's a documentary on Andy Murray, the tennis player, who was #1 in the world when he has his hip injury. He's playing doubles now. He never was able to regain what he had. He's just trying to manage the pain and all the issues that he's had. So hips are different, and I think you've got to get your medical people. And I wouldn't even. That's why I think that trade might even be, go beyond a little bit later than we would think, because I want to get the latest medical information on Tua as I can before you make that move.
What do you make of the Armando Salguero report out of Miami then, that Miami's like, you know what, we like this Herbert kid maybe more than we like Tua? What do you think of that?
I mean, I don't doubt that there's people in the organization that might like Herbert. Anything that gets out right now gets out for a reason. It is. I mean, and that's like Detroit, right? Detroit, what were we saying at the end of the season? The trade pick is 3. It's obvious. That's the trade pick. You got to get to 3 if you want Tua, and you've got 5, 6, and 7. They need to get to 3. Well, now all of a sudden they're getting it out there. It's out there everywhere. We like Tua. We're into Tua, AKA it's going to cost you a little more.
And certainly the fact that the Dolphins have accrued so much draft capital, you're gonna hold them up for as much as you possibly can if you're Detroit.
Here's the and I feel like we do this every year because it's always the grass is greener on the other side.
Right.
But there's the presence of Lawrence that kind of hangs out there of people saying
Trevor Lawrence
of saying, I'm not gonna go all the way in right now. I mean, if we can get a deal that works, we'll do it. But with Trevor Lawrence, and then you've got the kid at Ohio State. And believe it or not, there's a quarterback at North Dakota State next year that's going to probably come out. 28 touchdowns, no picks this year. Is an unbelievable athlete. Teams love him.
What's his name?
That's where I'll get to once I get these 337 names out of my head.
Help him out, Chris. Help him out.
Look him up. Look him up. The North Dakota State quarterback. They won the national championship as they do every year.
Right.
He's 6'3", 225 pounds. He didn't throw an interception the whole season. I don't know the last time I've ever seen anything like that. But what I'm getting at, you've got 3 really interesting quarterbacks in next year's class.
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance. There you go. Get to know that name. I'm talking to myself.
No, I know. Hey, they got a lot going on.
That's why teams, I think, would be reluctant to really go all in. The team that makes the most sense to make that type of a holy cow, they just gave up all that, is Carolina.
So before we dig into actual prospects in the actual combine, let's just finish this conversation up right here and right now. With all of what we're talking about, Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. If Trevor Lawrence was in this draft, where does he go?
Oh, he'd go number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah.
You didn't even stutter. Joe Burrow just had the season he just had.
I love Joe Burrow, but Trevor Lawrence has more ability, so he would be the first pick.
No doubt. You didn't even stutter.
I don't have any doubt.
Why?
Now we'll see what happens as we go through the next year.
Yeah.
He's Rich. He's 6'6". You saw the way he can run. I mean, he's gonna.
I tweeted that out. We're seeing it right now on the screen. This run where he ran away from the Ohio State defense. I tweeted out that half the league just tanked for the 2021 draft.
Well, the genius of that play is about 2 minutes before that, I tweeted, they need to stop running Lawrence. He's going to get killed. And then boom, cue run. And as you can imagine, Twitter was very kind to me after that. Yeah.
Okay. Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. Best prospect in the draft is?
Chase Young.
Okay, you didn't stutter there either. So then why wouldn't Cincinnati take him?
Well, that's the thing, is that if there is, whatever happens with Burrow, it happens. But it's not. I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. You end up taking an unbelievable talent at the second most important position on the field in Chase Young, who also happens to be going to be a very popular player in the state there. Everybody watched him play throughout his college career. But you still, quarterback trumps everything. So even though he carries a higher grade than somebody like Joe Burrow, you got to take the quarterback if you've got a chance to take the quarterback.
Okay, and then the best other prospect, not a quarterback, would be who?
I would probably Derek Brown from Auburn. He's Ndamukong Suh's who he reminds me of. He's just a dominant player. I think he's better than Quinnen Williams, who was coming into last year's draft. So he's he's just a physical freak. I was talking to a GM the other day. And we were talking about a guard. I think it was LSU guard at Lewis, and I said, "Hey, do you like him?" He goes, "Man, I didn't really warm up to him." I go, "You watched the Auburn game?" He goes, "Yeah, I just watched it." Like he does that to everybody. Derek Brown does that to everybody. Go watch more of the LSU guard because don't penalize him for what that kid did to him.
Okay, and the deepest position group that we're going to see at the combine will be
wide receivers. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Why? How so?
Just the depth. Now, there's not a Calvin Johnson, there's not a Julio Jones, but there are. I mean, I think I've got like 21 to 23 receivers with top 3-round grades. Now, I'm not saying they're all going to go in the first 3 rounds, but that's how many talented players you have there. And there's every kind of wide receiver that you could ever want.
Yeah, I could see here. I've got your top 50. That you updated about a week ago.
That's coming out. I'll have an update I turn in tomorrow. I'll probably post Monday.
Okay.
So there'll be
on
probably
NFL.com.
a couple more guys too.
Daniel Jeremiah here. You've got CeeDee Lamb over Jerry Jeudy, but they're 8-9.
They're right next to each other.
Exactly.
It's whatever flavor you want.
What's the flavor difference?
The flavor difference is Jerry Jeudy's going to give you more separation. Jerry Jeudy probably give you a little bit more over the top. And CeeDee Lamb is a better contested catch guy. CeeDee Lamb is an animal after the catch. So those are the two different styles those guys have.
Then you got Henry Ruggs III at 12 on your. This again your top 20.
Yeah.
The receiver from Alabama.
He's going to run 4.2 something.
Justin Jefferson at 17, the wide receiver from LSU,
who catches everything.
Right, and then Arizona State senior Brandon Ayuk is 19.
Brandon Ayuk, Rich, he's been working with Hushmanzada. And Hushmanzada said he's the closest thing to Chad Johnson that he's seen since Chad Johnson.
How so? On
Just
field,
how
off field?
Explosive. I don't know if he likes McDonald's. I didn't ask him that. But he's in terms of the explosiveness, yes.
And then while we're just talking here about top 20, you've got Jordan Love sitting there above Justin Herbert.
Yeah, look, I think there's kind of this thought out there that it's Justin Herbert is light years ahead of him. And for me, he's not. I think the 2018 version of Jordan Love is better than any version of Justin Herbert that I've seen. Now, Jordan Love took a tremendous fall this year. Lost 9 starters, head coach, offensive coordinator, and he just turned the ball over way too much. And that's something you've got to try and figure out. But as just a natural thrower of the football, I mean, he's explosive. He can move around. He's as talented as anybody at the position. He's just not ready. If I had to go play a game tomorrow, Justin Herbert. If I can redshirt these guys for a little bit and then look into the future, I think Jordan Love has more there.
Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. Deepest defensive position group that is which?
I think it's a good group of corners. I think there's a lot of depth there. It's funny. It's kind of what the game's given us. You go to any high school field in the country and you'll see spread offense, 4 wide receivers, balls flying all over the place,
right.
7-on-7 year round. And then we come into these drafts and we go, man, we got tons of receivers. We got tons of DBs. This is what these kids have been doing their whole life.
So it makes sense. The deepest position groups, receivers and DBs.
There you go.
Unbelievable. And who's going to be the fastest?
Ruggs. The cool thing with data now with the GPS stuff, and we use some of it because I know we do it with Run Rich Run,
yes.
but where you can get the MPH and all that. Well. Right. I think it's called the catapult system.
Okay.
So these guys wear this, during practices and during games. And so when scouts go through there now, instead of just saying, hey, did this guy run a 40? You'll say, give me what's the catapult numbers?
Right.
And the numbers on Ruggs were beyond off the charts. Like would have been faster than anybody on the field last year in the NFL. That's how fast.
We're going to see 4.2 out of him, you think? Is that what you're saying?
The second number is going to be a 2. I don't know what the third number is going to be.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, he could fly, man.
So John Ross has got to be sitting up straight wherever he's watching the combine Thursday night when Ruggs steps to the line, the charity stripe, if you will.
Thursday night, man.
And speaking of Run Rich Run, who do I have an opportunity to catch this year?
Who do you think I can get? You know what? I've got some good news, bad news for you.
Okay.
Good,
all right.
Good news. Mekhi Becton from Louisville is 6'7", 370 plus. It's a big man.
That's a large
That's
individual.
The good news.
The bad news is
he can run.
Come on. Come on.
He is athletic.
What are his dimensions again?
6'7". He's going to be 6'7", 370 plus.
And how fast is he going to run? You say you're going to go 5'7", 5'6"?
He's gonna
5'5".
He's gonna go south of that. I believe. We'll see.
So the largest man at the combine is gonna be sub 5'5". I got no shot.
It's gonna be right here, Rich. It's gonna be that simulcam, and it's gonna be.
He can scoot.
By the way, we've got some big Run Rich Run news coming at the end of the second hour of this show, where we can raise a ton of money this year.
Best.
Oh man, I can't wait for that. Before I let you go, you, sir, are a radio analyst for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Before you get to that question, which I know is coming,
where I'm going.
Before you get to that question, can I just tell you one Charger side note?
Yes.
So I had to have a minor procedure done, right? But you still get some anesthesia. So we come out of it, we get home, and I tell my wife, I said, did the doctor ever come talk to us afterwards? She goes, yeah, he spent 10 minutes with us.
Yeah.
I go, what did he say? She said, well, he laid out what you need to do. Okay. I said, what did I say? She's all, you just looked at him and said, Tua's going to the Chargers. I said, what? What is that?
Come on.
So if it happens on draft day,
Truth serum.
there's a doctor in San Diego that's going to be like, I've known that for months.
So, okay, you're coming out of anesthesia, and the first thing you say to the doctor is Tua's going to the Chargers.
I have no idea. By the way, I've never heard that. I know I call their games, but nobody's told me they're going to take Tua. They're not in, who knows? But that's what I told the guy.
Well, I mean, the Chargers sitting there at 6, and the 6th player on your top 50 is Tua. Maybe that's it.
Maybe that was the connection.
Maybe you just you're got that beautiful mind thing in your anesthesia hazed mind going on. The quarterback who starts the first game for the Los Angeles Chargers in that new stadium, Philip was on this show 2 years ago, said he wanted to be that guy. He's clearly not going to be.
Yeah.
Your best guess as to who that quarterback will be?
Well, I think the safest would probably say Tyrod
Taylor,
currently in that position. If we assume that they draft one and don't get one in free agency,
we don't want to go safe, DJ. Come on, man.
You don't want to go safe. I mean, look, there's a lot of reasons it makes sense for the Chargers to go after Tom Brady and bring him in there, and that would be that's the billboard. I mean, that's the home run from the billboard standpoint. I'm just curious to see what Tom wants to do. I can make sense of it from the Chargers thing all day long. The question is, does it make sense for Tom?
So what would make sense for Tom? And I'm talking football-wise here. I'm not talking about, whatever his family might enjoy about living in Southern California and Los Angeles. But what would it mean? Does it work?
The Patriots still makes the most sense to me with him. But could it work here? I think the Chargers have some work to do in free agency to kind of shore up that offensive line. The interesting thing is you could make technically, I guess you could make the promise and say, look, Tom, we're going to go sign 1 or 2 in free agency. We have the 6th pick. We're going to take a lineman. We can get the best tackle in the draft with that 6th overall pick, and we know the weapons we've got. You can franchise Hunter Henry, bring him back. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, who I think, wait till you see when he's the full-time back next year what he does. He's unbelievable. So now you can say, Tom, this looks pretty good now. But I think they have some work to do to really sell that.
The issue is what are the Patriots gonna do to let Tom know this is what we've got outside of what we had?
Yeah.
And that needs to be communicated in a manner that they then will have to go and do, because this decision has to be made right as the new league year begins. You can't, unless that tampering window, if you will, that they don't want to call the tampering window.
They got to get some work done during that window.
They damn straight do.
Yeah. Like
an absolute possible ton of all that.
How fun is this carousel going to be, though? I mean, I think the right thing, probably we'd want to see Tom finish up in New England and have the Derek Jeter run. Mm-hmm. But man, for what we do, I love to see him go somewhere else. It'd be a lot of fun to talk about.
Well, DJ, if I can keep you for one more segment, let's hit that, that is right around the corner, right after the combine. We had Schefter on yesterday. He called it the best free agency period for quarterbacks that we've ever seen.
We haven't seen anything like it.
No, I know. And because there's so many names that are out there or potentially to be out there, including Philip Rivers. And I want to hit that with Daniel Jeremiah. That's next on this edition of The Rich Eisen Show. One more segment with Daniel Jeremiah, with whom I will be paired once again in the old Combine Draft double dip. We'll be hanging in Vegas and hanging in Indianapolis for an absurd amount of time together. And so why not spend another segment with you right now here on The Rich Eisen Show? So what do you think happens with Philip Rivers? Where he's now moved to reportedly around the Tampa area. Tampa might be tinkering with their quarterback, who had LASIK to fix his 30/30 vision. So what do you think, DJ?
It was I think Mina Kimes had that tweet, by the way.
Oh, did she really?
It was from 30/30 to 20/20.
Well, no, actually, really 30/30 to 40/20 is really what, I'm sure Arians thinks is possible.
That's what it's hoping for.
Right. So
I think Phillips going to the Colts. I said that from the jump. Once that news came out that he was not going to be coming back to the Chargers, it makes too much sense for both parties. It just does. He's familiar with the offense. You don't want to learn a new offense at this point in time in your career anyways. You've got the offensive line that can protect you. You're going to play 9 games indoors because you get one in Houston every year, minimum. Well, with a 17-game schedule, I got to redo all this math.
Right, I know.
A lot of indoor games is what he's going to get. So I think it's a perfect situation for him to go for a couple more years.
So then Jameis stays in Tampa?
Yeah, and that's another component of this whole bargaining agreement, because if they don't get an agreement before the start of the league year, then the transition tag is in play. So you can franchise tag Barrett, the pass rusher, Shaq Barrett, and you could transition tag, which is a little bit lower number on Jameis. So you bring him back for 1 year. It's not as expensive as a franchise tag. Other teams would have the right to come in there and offer him that money. I don't know who that team would be. I mean, the only team I think the coach that would make sense for him is Gruden, because Gruden loved him going through the QB school. Jameis is unbelievable on the board, and when he's met with teams during that process, he's brilliant. And he can make every throw. You could show Jameis Winston's best and put it up against everybody else. The decision making is a major issue. But if you're can you see John?
He's legitimately, Jameis is the ultimate one-armed bandit to put in Las Vegas, Nevada.
There you go.
But what's the difference between him and Derek Carr?
The difference, they're totally opposite. Like, you could not be any more polar opposite. One is hyper aggressive, one's hyper conservative. You
mean like throwing it out of bounds on fourth down?
There you go.
When you need it to score, throwing it out of the end zone, just as an example.
That's an example. So it would be the classic. You go hire the exact opposite of what you just fired. So to me, that is the opposite. If it's the George Costanza do everything opposite, that would be Jameis Winston.
Saints. Is there any? I know Brees says I want to keep playing. He's going to be there, right? I mean,
true story. So my Drew Brees works out at a place with Todd Durkin called Fitness Quest. My dad who just turned 79, that's his gym. He goes in there and works out all the time. Okay. And he said Brees normally really starts coming in April, He said he's already there every day.
He's already there.
Yeah. Well, he's an animal. He is an absolute animal.
He's 40, so he knows he's got to take care of his business in that regard. And so Cam, this is so fascinating to me. So Matt Rule comes in. So David Tepper gets the one college coach outside of Lincoln Riley that everybody thought was was the hottest one. There's no question Joe Brady was the hottest assistant from college to bring into pros. He's got that guy, both of them. What do you do with Cam? I mean, if they say he's going to be healthy, do you stick with him, or do you just burn it all down and start with a young guy from scratch that they go ahead and either draft or acquire, or what do you think Carolina does?
I think all options are on the table. I'm fascinated by it, but I did not get the sense. I think what did he say? Well, tell me if he's healthy. We'll find out when he's healthy. It did not.
He's going to be healthy.
I know, but that was the answer that said, okay, I don't feel great about Cam.
Right.
They're going forward. Where does he go? What are they? I can't figure out. The only thing, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, what kind of what the Dolphins attempted to do last year, not to use the word. If you're going to identify one team, if you're going to identify one team that would make sense for, and if you think about how far Clemson is from there, that's the one team. If you said we're going to tear this thing down to the studs, our head coach has got a 7-year contract. He's going to be here. This is a long build. So,
tank for Trevor right next door.
That's a better ring to it.
It sure does. How about that one, Christopher? You like that one? So then where does Cam go?
I like that.
Chicago's not doing anything, right?
No, I don't know where he would go.
He goes to the Chargers.
Chicago is the one team that I mentioned. But you're not saying you're coming in here to compete. You're saying the Trubisky thing's over if you do that.
Outside of Brady, the only other quarterback that would, I think, capture the Los Angeles fancy, or that of my children, who I use as again, it's a crucial example. I know that they're 11, 8, and 9 and 6, and they don't have any purchasing power, but they are indicative of so many people in this town that would want to go to games and take the kids to games.
Yeah.
If Cam shows up here.
Yeah, star power.
You got to have it here in Los Angeles.
No, that's a legitimate case to be made there. I'm just curious to see. It's two things. One, is he healthy? Okay, assuming he's healthy, then how does he want to play? Because if I'm going to bring in Cam Newton, I'm hoping I'm getting the Cam Newton I can run some quarterback power with, and I can let him run around a little bit. I think there's two different Cam Newtons. There's the pure pocket only Cam Newton, or there's the MVP Cam Newton. So that, to me, you got to figure out what you're getting.
Well, Daniel, I'm going to take the same approach with you of timing my 40 for Run Rich Run. I'm going to have to see how healthy you are, and as we get close, you just have to keep me apprised as to whether your timing arm is already your forearms, or you've timed too many guys, and you've got that sort of atrophy that's happening here.
I don't want to do a disservice to your run, man.
I need every help I can, every second I can.
I'm not
get.
above that. I'm not one of these guys going to hurt the team going out there and not being healthy. If I can't go, we'll get somebody else.
There is an I in Daniel and Jeremiah, but you're a great teammate. Thanks for coming on here, DJ.
Yep.
At Move the Sticks. Check out his podcast with Bucky Brooks, and check him out on Twitter and Instagram, and check him out with me on NFL Network next week in prime time 1 week from tonight.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.